Okay. Alright. Okay. Let's see what we're doing today. Man, it's been a minute. Oh. Delete your channel. Yeah, okay. Sure. Why not? It was a good run, right? No? Oh. Oh. Whoa. Oh, a CCG? That sounds great! A self-described inky black card-based odyssey, Inscryption is a tough game to review, especially in a spoiler-free format, considering it was marketed as something it isn't. You know, a nature-themed deck-building roguelite based in an escape room environment soaked in psychological horror. Now, to be clear, Inscryption definitely has all of that, but that's not what it is. No, Inscryption is, at its heart, a metagame. A game that delights in transcending the very rules it itself establishes, then going well beyond their purported limits. When executed with purpose, as was Pony Island, metagames can become fascinating explorations of the very medium they embody, but overemphasis on meta themes can bog down a game's pacing, which is what I'd argue happened to the Hex's middle third. So, does Inscryption's commitment to metafiction add or detract from the overall experience? Let's put it under the Meg of the microscope to find out. Turns out, it kinda does both. And to double down on that cop-out answer, let me also caveat that I've never felt less confident in my scoring system's ability to quickly communicate to viewers what this game does or does not do well. You see, Inscryption is a game of many faces. It's composed of 4 chapters, each filled with creepy lore, secrets, and full-blown stylistic shifts. As said graphical evolutions, or at times devolutions really, were only subtly alluded to in Inscryption's trailers and demo, I consider them spoilers, and I won't be showing footage of them in this review. Instead, what I can tell you is that Inscryption's story, which I break down to plot, characters, and dialogue, is, well, a bit of a mixed bag. Let's start with plot, aka the game's narrative sequence of events. For a game so steeped in secrets, Inscryption's title is surprisingly transparent. A portmanteau of inscription and crypt, Inscryption suggests the drawing of a figure within something else, not unlike a prison, or for the dead, a crypt. Sure enough, Inscryption quickly introduces you to a number of such inscribed allies, each occupying the form of a spirit animal with their own memorable deliveries and personalities. But while these characters all stand out as individually unique, they're very much united against Inscryption's mad dungeon master of an antagonist, Leshy, who has bound these critters to their two-dimensional purgatory with technology he found in Will Smith's garage. Besting Leshy therefore becomes your primary quest, and the ensuing plot is told through 2 forms of interrelated gameplay: turn-based card combat and puzzle solving your way through Leshy's escape room of a cabin. It was this chapter of Inscryption that will stay with me the longest. It's exciting, it's atmospheric, and the actual gameplay stands up to its CCG contemporaries with fantastic depth of combat, which we'll unpack in a bit. With regard to characters, I was surprised by how quickly I formed connections with my snarky stoat bro and stinkbug buddy, and I loved the ways in which they interacted based on the game itself. Really, the writing is delightful, heartfelt, hilarious, and a definite highlight of the game overall. But for what Inscryption later gains in novelty due to stark shifts in presentation, well, it sacrifices in narrative coherency. And hey, I get it. Sacrifices must be made. But, well, the overall plot is kind of confusing, really, and left a weird aftertaste in my brain. Let's move on to gameplay. Now, I haven't been an expert in CCGs since memorizing Charizard stats in 2nd grade and convincing my idiot friends that I had 12 of them. True story. But you don't need to be a digital card game diehard to know that Inscryption is the real deal. It takes popular CCG elements, Yu-Gi-Oh! Being a prime inspirator on Sir Mullins, and twists them to fascinating, occasionally frustrating ends. Combat typically unfolds in rather short, often themed rounds in which you face a predetermined deck or debuff, and each subsequent encounter boasts increasingly complex, powerful enemies. I personally loved how many special abilities Inscryption packed into its rulebook. The thing's a mile long, but comprehensible. Though I did have to ding playability here due to the game's inconsistent difficulty, especially in later chapters. Really, from what I've gathered based on my experience and that of other players, it's a coin flip as to whether you'll find parts of Inscryption laughably easy or shockingly hard. As for content, well, I hate to beat a dead stoat, but I personally felt like the thrill was gone after escaping from Leshy's cabin, which oozes sinister charm and arguably ends before it should. This said, the bosses in Inscryption remain solid throughout, and it's through them that the game's metafiction shines brightest. Watching bosses manipulate your cards and the board itself in ways you never thought possible is a real treat, and makes this game an easy recommendation to CCGers, if that's a term. Let's turn to our final metric, style. Artistically, Inscryption seems to bite off a bit more than it needed to chew. As a consequence of shifting styles, not once but at least 4 times, well, it visually ends up feeling a bit thin. Sort of stretched, like butter scraped over too much Bilbo. This said, the OST and sound design in Inscryption are excellent, transforming wonderfully to each chapter's theme, which are all so thematically different as to make pulling this off an impressive accomplishment. But in the end, Inscryption ends up feeling more like several discrete games than it does the cohesive, quote, odyssey that was suggested. In the end, and after averaging up our micrometrics, Inscryption earns a conflicted megascore of 3.23 out of 5. Hey, it's anything but more of the same, so I'll happily recommend it to people who think they've seen it all with regard to the genre. Until next time, this is Scope, and thanks for watching. Oh man, not again.